All right, so I'm here with my good buddy Dan. We have been friends for God. It's been over 5 years now. We're in a private mastermind together, and I wanted to bring Dan on today because he was one of the people that introduced me to a very hot topic about 4 years ago, which is called intermittent fasting. And, and Dan not only went through his own transformation that he'll share about, but has also become a real leader in the fat loss industry and supporting people to go through their own transformation. So Dan, why don't you share with everybody a little bit about yourself and what you're up to and how you're helping people out, and then we'll get into how your whole journey started.
Cool. Well, my name is Dan Go. Thank you very much, David. We call Dave Bins where we're from. It's a nickname for us. And yeah, we've been friends for a long ass time. We've seen each other grow in our respective industries. It's very awesome for you to give me the opportunity to speak here. And yeah, definitely. Thank you. And also I have two businesses. So I have my gym, which is Go Girl Transformation. We actually started the first women's body transformation center in Canada, if not North America. And also I have the Body Transformation Mastermind, which helps high-achieving entrepreneurs, both male and female, achieve their best bodies with minimal ease and stress. And I've been doing this for the past 11 years, and I've gone through my own struggles with with my body transformation. And that's actually a huge reason why I've dedicated my life to helping others in their journey.
Yeah, it's amazing, man, because I've always known you as someone who's always, since we've known each other, you've always been in incredible shape. But why don't you share with people a little bit about what it was actually like before you transformed your body and how you actually did that?
Well, I'm going to call it the worst days of my life when I look back on it, right? And this is actually during the periods of like public school all the way to pretty much like being a senior in college. For us, it's like being like third year university or whatever, fourth year university. But for Americans who may be watching this, it's like being a junior or senior in college. So I've had to deal with my own weight issues during that period of time. And actually talking to a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, high school was the best time of my life, and college was the best time of my life. Those were the worst periods of my life due to when I was in high school. I got bullied a ton because I wasn't in shape. I wasn't cool. I wasn't one of like the really popular kids in class. And in college, my body actually, to put things into context, my body actually got even worse because I added, binge drinking and smoking cigarettes and everything like that onto the table when I got to college years. And it really wasn't until I always knew that I had this pain and this sort of, I guess you could say, pressure I felt around my body. It was getting fatter and fatter, and I wouldn't really admit it to myself. I would rationalize it away, or I'd drink it away, or I'd do something to kind of ignore the fact that my body was completely out of shape. And when I say out of shape, it was pushing over 200 pounds at that time. And right now I weigh around like 170, 165 pounds on the regular. So it was at that time, and that it actually the reason why I changed was very simple. It was actually because of a girl, which is like the weirdest, sort of like a cliche thing, right? And it was not just any girl. It was a girl who I thought that I was going to marry eventually and all this kind of stuff. And thankfully I didn't. Looking back, thankfully I didn't. But long story short, through a friend, I had been told that she had actually started to cheat on me and developed this second relationship with this dude who essentially had, the complete opposite genetics of me at that time. While I was like, my body was literally like, I had man boobs and I had like a pear-shaped waistline, and he was like cut out of an action movie. It was quite frankly one of the lowest points in my life because of the whole comparison. And he, essentially is like, he's 100 and I was 0. And it was at that point in time where I really had a lot of fire in my belly, obviously. So I found out that she cheated on me. You know, I broke up with her, obviously, went back home, and I gave myself a very hard look in my face. And I looked in the mirror. I will say that there was a couple of expletives and a couple of tears that streamed down, but it was at that point in time when I looked in the mirror and I was like, I'm going to dedicate my life to transforming my body no matter what it takes. And this was about, I would say, like 11, 12 years ago, when actually a little bit longer than that, when I started getting really serious about my body. And then it's taken me to amazing places now. So one of my principles is, especially for guys and even for girls, actually for guys and girls, when you transform your body, every aspect of your life transforms along with it, right? So you can actually enhance your experience of life just by getting your body down to its optimal levels of weight. And that's something I realized when I actually transformed my body. So after I did whatever I could, I lost the weight, got myself into shape. I pretty much quit the career I was working at the time, which was something I hated. It was a corporate job. And I went to something I was passionate about, which was actually just helping people. And for me, that was like more so in the fitness industry. And then from there, I kind of just kept on growing, and it was all because of the leverage I gained by transforming my own body and getting into my best shape.
Yeah, it's incredible because I've actually never heard that piece of your story.
Yeah.
Of what it was actually like, and mine isn't too dissimilar. So, and I know a lot of people who I've been speaking with and who I've been working with and who I've been sharing my story with are in a similar place. And when did you actually decide, was there like an actual moment that you begin out intermittent fasting? Because I know for both of us that intermittent fasting has been a really big tool for the two of us.
Yes.
And many other people, but where did you actually learn about it?
So very interesting is that I started off in the whole bodybuilder phase, which I think a lot of guys, back in the 90s were doing. So we had these like bodybuilder magazines, and it was telling us to eat 5 meals a day, to do cardio, and to do all these sorts of things to get our bodies into shape. And I had been doing that I've been doing that along with all these other like crazy diets, in order to change my body, but none of it was actually working or helping me sustain it. So I'll give you an example. So on this bodybuilding website, there's something called the Velocity Diet, and you can look it up, but whatever. But essentially it has you drinking 5 protein shakes a day, and then that's it. And you do that for a period of like 28 days. And I'll tell you right now, like I got a great ton of success out of that, but I was only able to keep the results for like literally like 3 months. And then I gained all the weight back. Think about like, I lost like 30 pounds. I gained it all back. And I was like, that was as frustrating as it can get. So I was at the point where I was just looking for anything different, because everybody was like spewing the same things over and over. Like, you must eat 5 meals a day. You must eat your breakfast. And I was doing everything and not seeing the results I wanted. So I was like, okay, I was at a point where I was like, I'm willing to try anything. And thankfully, this, I think is the law of attraction. I don't know what it is, but I had the thought of like, I'm just going to try anything. And I'm looking for that one piece of advice that is actually going to turn the needle and make things not only more effective, but easier for me. And that was when I came across my now friend, this guy, Brad Pilon's work, which is his book called Eat, Stop, Eat. And once I read that book, I essentially went down a rabbit hole, and I consumed all things that I could have ever consumed about intermittent fasting. And when we talked about fasting the very first time, remember, this was like 5 or 6 years ago. People were still kind of like, oh, I don't like, that's going to put me in starvation mode. And this is like pretty raw stuff, like way back then. But it was at that point, like way back then, where I was actually trying it. I was seeing success with it. I was getting deeper with it. And then I was able to actually take my own clients through the processes of doing these intermittent fasting plans. So through the process of actually working with, at that time it was hundreds, now it's like thousands of clients. Now I was able to see what the nuances were, what the differences were between, like, say, guys and girls, right? Between, let's just say different body types, or let's just say, different places where people actually gain fat and the different things that you need to do. So it was through all that testing, that's when I was like, okay, well, this diet itself is like the bee's knees. It's incredibly easy once you get used to it. And I don't necessarily see how people can still have those kinds of mindsets. But then I understand the food industry and the supplement industry is a both multi-billion dollar industries, and it's not in their best interest to let you see the benefits that come along with actually not eating for long periods of time.
Yeah, because it actually works, and you don't consume supplements while you're doing it.
Yeah, you don't. Like, you need coffee and water, and then that's about it.
Yep.
That's it. But I found with, like, fasting, it's literally the easiest way, right? It's the easiest way to get down to your optimal levels of weight or body fat, whatever one that you want to choose, because the less things that you have to add to your diet plan, and the more simpler it is, then it actually makes the process less frustrating as a result.
Yeah, and I remember going back to when you first introduced me to it, and my immediate reaction was like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And now when I share that I do intermittent fasting with other people, I often get the same reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I provide them with the advice that worked for me. But if somebody's watching this video, what advice would you provide to them? Because there's very much what I call a societal agreement that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, when you and I and hundreds and thousands of other people know that's actually not the case.
Yeah. So the very first thing I would do is actually just education and awareness, and take the time to learn about your body. And you don't have to, like, learn about your anatomy. You don't have to learn about any of that. But what I would say is that read the literature. I would start with Brad Pilon's book, Eat, Stop, Eat. I feel like that is one of the foremost educational resources that you can ever read on fasting, and it's not that many pages either. It's not the easiest read, but you'll get the most information out of it. And the next thing I would do is get awareness, understand that not eating for long periods of time is not going to affect our bodies in the negative way. It actually affects our bodies in the positive way once you start seeing these studies. And afterwards, what I would do is I would start with baby steps. So if you are eating, say, whatever it is, a croissant first thing in the morning, all right? What I would say is, okay, I would actually push back that croissant by 1 hour. So I find there's two different types of people out there. All right. They're the type of people that are okay with going like 0 to 100, and they're the type of people that are not okay and need to do things with baby steps. So the first way is baby steps. If you are a person that likes to take things from 0 to 100 and you don't mind going through the adaptions in a fast process and you're good with change, I would actually say start with a 16-hour fast. All right. So start with having your last meal at 8, having your first meal at 12, and then just start going through the process of that. The other thing I would say is also, every single time I put clients through this, and it's the first time doing it, I tell them, you have to give it at least, like, I wish I could do this with clients. Like, you have to give it like 14 days, okay? Give it like at least like 7 to 14 days. Your body adapts, and your body's natural hunger response adapts along with it. So if you, like, a lot of times I hear people, oh, I tried intermittent fasting, I did it for 3 days and it didn't work out for me. And then, and a lot of times when I hear people do that, there's like two things I want to do. I either want to shake them really violently or just totally exit the conversation immediately, because there's so many things I have to say. But when when people do intermittent fasting and they're not successful with it, they only do it for a period of like a very short amount of time. That's not enough time for your hunger signals to actually adapt. And you need you need that time to actually let your body adapt to it. And if you don't give it that time, then essentially you might as well just not even bother. And the other thing, and the last thing is that if you really want to successfully do any type of fast, whether it be 16 hours, 24 hours, or even 36, or even, multiple days, very first thing is, monitor what you're actually intaking. So the first thing is water. How much water are you taking in on a daily basis? Are you putting salt in that? Even like natural foods, like whole foods. Are you, say, breaking your fast by eating natural, wholesome foods? Or are you breaking it, or are you doing like a 24-hour fast and breaking it with like fried chicken, thinking that you just fasted and eliminated these calories and now you can take in whatever you want? So, it's about being responsible. So the first thing is, depending on your body, depending on your personality type, if you're a person that's like 0 to 100, I say go for the 16-hour fast first. If you're a person just starting out, push your first meal back by an hour. It's not going to be, you're going to find out as time goes on, it's not going to be that harmful to your body.
Yeah, that's great. And then before we got started today, you were actually talking about the 3 phases of fat loss, which you really piqued my interest, because I'd like to see where I am in that, because I still have a little bit to go. So could you share that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's 3 levels to dieting and fat loss. So when I talk about fat loss, I really talk about dieting, because like with our workouts, we're supposed to build and maintain muscle. All right. With our diets, that's where we want to do 99% of our fat burning. All right. So when it comes to fat loss transformation, there are 3 levels. Like the very first level is the level that when people reach their goals, this is where they stay in. 80% of people actually stay here. And that's just actually getting your body into a natural rhythm of going under a strict, not a strict eating schedule, but just like a regular eating schedule, fasting for about 16 hours in the day. All right. And eating wholesome, like whole natural foods, and having like an 80-20 mindset. You're eating 80% whole foods, 20%, processed items. You're drinking enough water. And just by doing this alone, by doing those things, you can actually get to as close to your optimal weight as you want. Especially if you have like 20 to 30 pounds to lose, you can actually use this process to get yourself down to 80%. This is what I call 80%. Now, to get to the last 20%, this is the second level of dieting, right? You have to get a little bit more exact. You have to know what your macros are. You have to know, what your macros are, your carbs, your fats, your proteins. You have to get a little bit more exact with it. So I always say to drop the last 10 pounds off of your body, the last 10 pounds of fat. And for guys, it's like getting down to like 10% body fat. For women, it's getting down to like 15% body fat. To drop those last 10 pounds, you need to be exact. You need to know what your macros are. You need to go under some sort of calorie restriction plan along with doing the things that we just mentioned in phase 1. All right. And the final level is to live in the body that you want while having the lifestyle and eating the foods that you love, and understanding how to balance that all and keep the transformation that you work so hard to achieve. And that's called flexible dieting. So people have to go through these 3 levels. And a lot of times, when people reach 80% of their goal, they're cool. They're like, all right, that's cool. I don't want to sacrifice anymore. But for the people that want to take it to the next level and want to see the striations in their abs and like, just see a ripped body, then you're going to have to be more exact. And then the final part to that is understanding how it all ties together and understanding how you can live a life and still be in the body that you want. Right? So people all have to go through these levels, and sometimes it takes years. My job is to help people cut the time it takes to get from one thing to another, from one level to another.
Yeah. And it's, and when we were talking the other day, that's, the third phase is really what I'm in right now, is dialing everything in and going for that last, 5 to 6% body fat, or last kind of 10 to 12 pounds in that range, whatever that may be. And then you were also talking about something that I've discovered throughout my process, which is like the rhythm of eating. And I have a way that I eat that just totally has me be completely supported and feeling great, optimal energy. But just because that works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you or someone watching this video. And you were talking about, did you say circadian eating? Is that what you said?
Well, I say it's like following a regular eating schedule, but for people who, I say that for people who are inundated, but in reality, what you're doing is you're following your own circadian rhythm of eating. Now, we have circadian rhythms when it comes to our sleep, when it comes to eating, and also it comes to like the spurts of energy that we feel throughout the day. And these are all kind of, I guess you could say, controlled by specific factors like your hormones, neurotransmitters, and also just like how your body just loves to process things on a regular basis. One of the things I say about the diet is, and about workouts, is like your workouts actually need to change on a somewhat frequent basis, maybe 3 to 4 weeks, for your body to elicit the gains that it wants to see. For the diet, your diet actually, the way that your body responds to diet is it loves routine. And this correlates with the circadian rhythm. Now, when you have your circadian rhythm locked down and you're eating to your body's own natural rhythm, to the way it likes to eat, what happens is that your metabolism starts working more efficiently. Your hormones you start building this hormonal foundation. And people, if you actually listen to the research done by the guys in the Salk Institute down in San Diego, they've actually found that following a natural rhythm of eating is correlated with having less disease, better fat loss, and even greater energy, as opposed to someone who, say, like eats haphazardly throughout the day. And you see this a lot with people. Like when people eat, it's not necessarily because they have to eat. They feel like they need to eat, or they feel like there is like some sort of pull to have them eat, when in reality it has nothing to do with their hunger or even their circadian rhythms. And this actually disrupts what you're trying to do. So what I do with my clients is, number one, I actually call this like the biggest fat loss pairing ever. It's like the pairing between the intermittent fasting protocol and actually following a regular circadian rhythm of eating. And one thing I want to mention about the circadian rhythm of eating as well is that it is very individual to every single person. The way that you eat is going to be different than the way I eat. Yep. The way that Julie eats is going to be different than the way that Marcy eats. And you have a circadian rhythm that is very individual to your own lifestyle and the way that your body likes to eat. So I'll give you an example. So for me, I have pushed back my first meal significantly. So now I have my first meal sometimes around 3, but most of the times it's like around like 4 or 5, because that's just the way I've trained my body to eat. This does not mean that everyone has to do this, and I realize the very extreme example, but just using myself as an example. So my body is naturally attuned to this way of eating, and this is just the way I've found that I like to eat to keep my body where it is. Now, I've had massage therapists do my program, and because they have such a physical job, they actually need more frequent meals throughout the day. So one of my massage therapists, well, she's not my massage therapist, but I'm helping her, she's my client. We've actually got her to eat breakfast, eat breakfast, because she is helping clients literally 3 hours or 2 to 3 hours after waking, almost immediately. She needs that amount of energy to kind of get through and use it and process it, because she is expending a little bit more energy than, say, me, who's just sitting down, folding my arms and telling clients what to do. Right? So the thing is that your circadian rhythm is actually it's so moldable to your own lifestyle, and you have to mold it to your lifestyle if you want any of these fat loss processes to work efficiently. So her meal schedule was, she's going to eat at 9. She's going to eat her next meal, I think it was like at 2 p.m. And then she's going to have her next meal after that at like 6 p.m. And then that's it. She was going to be done. And this was the schedule she trained her body to do. So she didn't force herself to do it. This is actually what her body naturally was acclimated to do already in the first place. And I believe she added one more meal. So she's eating 4 meals, not 3. So the thing is, what we have to realize is that your body has a natural way and a rhythm to the way it likes to eat. The only way to understand that is to actually go to your extremes, follow a regular meal schedule, and then to see exactly when your hunger starts coming up and when your hunger isn't there. Because a lot of times when we eat, we're like, should we eat? I don't really feel hungry right now. And then just because like we're programmed to do it, right? Then we end up going at it and taking in more calories than we really need. And if people can get in control and also like in tune with this natural rhythm to how they eat, it makes the fat loss process and the process of dieting incredibly, I say it makes it incredibly more effective and incredibly more easier.
What's your philosophy on cheat days? I have my own, but I really want to hear and learn what your philosophy is on that.
My philosophy on cheat days is first of all, going into the vocabulary. So I never call them cheat days. And this is actually something I'm trying to eliminate out of my vocabulary, because what I realize with the way that we communicate is the way we communicate to ourselves and the way that we communicate to clients is if we call something a cheat, it makes people think like they're doing something wrong to themselves, when in reality, it can be highly beneficial to actually go outside of your diet and eat the stuff that you normally discipline yourself against eating, right? So I like to call them free meals. And I know a lot of people do that, but yeah, and that's just the way I like to call them. So the first thing is that change the vocabulary, call it what it is. The second thing is with free meals, I like to schedule them a little bit more on the weekends, and I don't do entire days. I just do like maybe one meal or two meals a week. And with those meals, I kind of go off and I just do whatever I want. And that includes also alcohol as well. Now, I pair this as well with the fact that I usually fast for 24 hours, maybe once or twice a week. And this, I find, is a good balance between having my cake and also eating it too. And along then, yeah, and throughout the week, I'm pretty responsible with my diet. I'm not going to lie. I'm fairly responsible because throughout the week, I don't need to go outside of it. You know, I can eat a good steak and I can feel good about myself. So usually I schedule these on like the weekends. I won't say I limit myself, but I just keep myself to maybe one or two, because in reality, when you have these free meals and the next day, you start feeling the price that you pay for them, then you start kind of like, then you start realizing that you want to control them a bit, because it's not worth, especially as you get older, it's not worth the energetic price we pay the next day. So yeah, one to two meals a week. And yeah, I do it usually with like my fiance or, with family or friends.
Yeah. And that's one of the big things that I learned throughout the whole process is when you move over to a whole, mine's mainly a plant-based diet, which is, what I would refer to as like pure nutrients going into the body. And then when you bring processed or toxic food or white sugar into the body, the reaction the next day is it's palpable. So, knowing that we have birthdays, knowing that we have work gatherings and holidays, do you actually have a protocol that you've put in place to get your body back into that rhythm to continue the fat loss and wellness journey, or just to maintain it?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is if I don't feel like eating, I'm not going to eat. Right. And a lot of times when I overeat on a meal or a day, I don't get the philosophy that you should actually go back to eating the same meals over and over and over, like, go back to your regular diet. I actually do not feel hungry. So therefore I usually don't eat for like the rest of the day until the dinner. Right. So usually I have my free meals during like dinner time. So I'll literally do like a 24-hour fast up until dinner. And that's because I just don't want to eat. And in general, I actually find that just going back to your regular way of eating, like, what I've realized is that one meal does not screw the pooch, right? Like if you go outside of your diet for one meal, it's not going to ruin everything else. Just get yourself back on plan. Maybe do like a 24-hour fast if you don't feel like eating, and start eating like those wholesome, nutritious foods that you talked about. And you just got to actually put it behind you and just move on and go accordingly. Right?
Yeah, I found that during those times, two things that I observed is it takes an incredible amount of patience and being gentle with myself when I'm in what I, a reset period of, 2 or 3 days to get back in, because I just can't tolerate feeling that terrible anymore. Like after the holidays, going to the family, and it's great. It's awesome to indulge. And as you said earlier, it's actually very beneficial to, shocking the system into supporting weight loss. But one of the things that I've put in is I'll do, 15 to 18 minutes of high intensity interval training fasted the day after. And that just, for me, really brings velocity back on track. Is that something that you recommend or suggest to people?
You know what? I like where you're going with that. I go about it in a slightly different way. I wouldn't do it with high intensity interval training. I would actually go inside the gym and do pretty much like a meathead workout. And for me, a lot of my workouts are just based on strength, which is what I feel like a lot of guys should be focusing on as they get older. Me being 38 years old, I put way more focus into my strength right now. And you want to use those calories to your advantage. And you don't want to use them to help you burn more fat, because they're already going to do that. If you've been following a regular diet and been really responsible, then you go off and you do a free meal, it should actually be beneficial in terms of like the leptin production for your body, right? So you want to use those extra calories, take them into the gym, and use them for like heavy deadlifts and like, doing like heavy work inside that gym, because those calories are going to assist you in the workout, but also they're going to help you build more muscle as well. Like usually when we're overeating or when we're going free with our meals, it's like high carb, high somewhat carb, maybe some protein, but we want to use those carbs to our advantage. So I would go in the gym and I would knock down a really big meathead workout and use those, because you're going to find that you actually have more energy to lift those weights rather than if you did it, say, if you're just like doing a regular type of diet. All right. So that's what I would do after, say, like a free day or a free meal.
Okay, great. And then before I shift the focus a little bit for the last few minutes that we're together, is there anything else that you feel that people should really know when they're beginning to start their journey? Maybe they're 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight. What's the one thing that you want to impart upon people that may be in that situation?
Oh man, so many things I would love to impart on people. I'm gonna self-limit myself to 3 things, because I can talk about this all day.
Great.
The first thing is come at it from a perception of investing in yourself. Every workout, every coach, every meal, whatever you do to enhance your health and enhance your body, these are things in which you are investing into yourself. And one of the things I say, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, is I find a huge disconnect when entrepreneurs expect other people to invest in them when they don't even invest in themselves. Huge disconnect.
Yep.
It's a disconnect to me when I see high achieving entrepreneurs rocking it in their businesses who don't spend any time on their health. Like it's shocking to me, but at the same time I understand it, because it's just a place of values and priority, and that's all it is, right? So understand and perceive transforming your body as something that will actually enhance the rest of your life. And I'm not saying this because it's cliche. I'm saying this because it's true, and I've seen people, thousands of people, do this. I've seen people get out of crappy relationships. I've seen people change careers and do things that they're actually passionate about. I've seen entrepreneurs make double, triple the amounts of money because they have unblocked this, right? And they have taken their health into their own hands, and they're controlling the only thing they have control over, which is themselves. So first thing is perceive body transformation as an investment in yourself, just like you would any type of investment that you make in your business or your life or whatever, and proceed accordingly, and then do it consistently. the second thing is that understand that transformation is 90% mental, 10% physical. Maybe you're getting some good insights and you're hearing what we're talking about right now. And hopefully a lot of stuff that we talk about is things that you guys can take into your own lives. But what I will say is that if this does not change, this will not change. And you can lose 20 pounds initially, you can lose 30 pounds, but if this isn't right, you're going to gain all that weight back. So you have to understand how thought and how our brains actually work before getting into the transformation game. So here's what I mean. So this might be a review for everybody, but for everyone that doesn't, this is going to be great. We have 3 processes in our minds going on all at the same time. All right. And this is actually a goal setting process. Part of a goal setting process I take all of my clients. No one is exempt from this because this is so important. So the 3 things that you have to monitor are 1, your conscious mind, right? Like the things that you say on a regular basis, that conversation that you have inside the mind, that's the one thing that controls, that's the one part that controls the processes. Second part is the mind that's underneath the mind. And this is actually like your supercomputer, which is called the subconscious mind. Understanding that it literally just takes whatever thoughts that it's taking from the conscious mind and producing those things in the real world, right? So if you have thoughts of success, of, attainment, of just being a better person and whatever, these things will actually seep into that subconscious, which is running the show essentially, and it's going to come out in the real world. And one of the ways I like to say the subconscious is that it's like when you're driving a car and talking to a person and having conversation with someone at the same time. Or even worse, if you're texting and driving at the same time, which you should not be doing in the first place, which almost everyone does. But anyways, the reason you're able to do that is because your subconscious has already taken the process of driving and already internalized it. And that's what allows you to actually do 2 things at once, right? And this subconscious is running our lives as we know it. And that's what a lot of people don't realize because they think they live too much on the outside instead of figuring out what the inner game is, right? And the third thing that affects people, and this is actually long-term, is how people's self-image is. Like, what is your thoughts about yourself? What is your own self-image like? And I liken this to a temperature gauge. So if your temperature is set at a temp, and let's just say your temperature is set at a weight of 180 pounds and you lose 20, guess what's going to happen to your body if your temperature is still set at, let's just say 180 pounds? It's going to go back to 180 pounds, right? It's called the body set point theory. And you may not think it's true, but it is true. And this is in relation to people's self-image because they literally have not seen themselves as the people that they want to be, and they have not even internalized the person that they're gonna have to be in order to achieve the goal that they're trying to set out for themselves. And if any one of these 3 things is lacking in any way, then you may be able to see results for a short period of time, but you're not going to be able to keep them. So that's like the second thing. Understand how the mental processes work and work with them and work with how your brain actually likes to work. And the very third thing that I would say to anyone that is starting out or getting started in this whole phase, I would actually say stop being your own auto mechanic, right? I don't know about you, but I don't change my own oil. If there's a problem with my car, I don't try to fix it myself. But that's what a lot of people are doing right now, right? A lot of people are trying to piece things together. They're trying to take 1,000 different things and try to do one thing with it. Or they're trying to take one thing from this ebook and then one thing from this person that said this thing on this blog and one thing from here. And they're trying to piece together their own transformation program and their own I guess you could say, body transformation plan. They're trying to be their own auto mechanic. And I'm telling you right now, there's so many nuances and so many little details that a lot of people miss when they're just starting out their body transformation. And yes, you can be successful on your own, but how many people have you actually seen that are able to do that and actually stick and keep the long-term sustainable results? For every person that you say has done that, I'll give you 1,000 more people that have not been able to do that. All right. A lot of people will be like, oh, look at that guy. He got in shape on his own. And I'll be like, yeah, it's called an outlier, right? It's called survivorship bias. You're only picking the one dude out there, that got successful, and you're not counting the millions of others that have tried on their own and have not done anything. So what I will say is that get help in any way, whether it's from like yourself, from me, from anyone. Make sure that you are with someone that can give you a proven game plan, that can give you a strategy, that can eliminate the years of toil and investment of money and all this stuff and give you the straight line path to the goals that you want. I don't really care, how much money you have to pay for that, and I would not, and quite frankly, for me, when it comes to my body and my own health, I will not chintz myself out whatsoever, right? I'll spend whatever I want, because I understand that investing in my health is investing in every other aspect of my life, right?
You got it.
So yeah, I would say to them, get someone who's been there before, who can show you the ropes, who can get you from point A to point Z, or point Z for our American viewers, in as fast amount of time possible, in the most sustainable way possible, and stop being your own auto mechanic and just do it. Like, bite the bullet and get help.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really, 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 really good advice. All right. So now I got a few rapid fire questions.
Cool.
What book are you reading right now?
Two books I'm reading right now. I'm really into learning how the mind works at this very moment, or even getting deeper into that study. So the first book is With Winning in Mind by Lane Basham. Very obscure book that I couldn't even, I had to wait 2 months to get from Amazon, right? There's not that many copies out there left, but that is an amazing book. It literally teaches you how to program your mind for the success that you actually want. And I'm not saying that in an airy fairy way. There's a lot of science behind it as well. Freaking love it. Second book is actually called The Master Key by Charles F. Hannell. And this one is a little bit on the foofy side, but I freaking love it. And again, it teaches you exactly how to program your mind, your body, and yourself to achieve the goals and whatever the things that you want in your life. All right. So those are the top two. Now, if I were to pick a book that I'm reading for performance and say for body transformation, The Stubborn Fat Protocol by Lyle McDonald. It's a bit on the heavy side when it comes to the science part of it, but I'm telling you right now, the information that you get from that book is going to enhance your education and your knowledge about what it really takes to really to understand what hormone processes are going through your body when it comes to stubborn fat, and also give you a proven game plan to eliminate the stubborn fat, especially for guys like me. I gain a lot of weight in that belly area, so it's really teaching me exactly how to eat in terms of switching up where I actually gain fat. So that's another one I would say. That's a little bit more on the fat loss side. Yeah.
All right, awesome. And then what would you say is the most consistent thing about your health?
I'd say fasting. Okay. So the most consistent thing about my health is actually working out, because I don't think about it anymore, and then I just do it. And if I don't get a certain number of days in, then I start to feel cranky, and to me it's become a religion in a sense, and I've become so consistent with it, and it's just become a part of my life. So that's the first thing. I think having a regular schedule of working out is one of those things that just keeps you in line with the body that you want. Anecdotal, awesome. But whatever. But the other thing
I totally get it.
Yeah. The other thing is fasting. The other thing is I have to say is I have not periodically, but over time I've pushed my first meal back. I started with 12. Actually, I started with 11 a.m. because I used to eat meals like first thing in the morning. And then I went to 12, then I went to 1, then I went to 2, then I went to 3. Now I'm between like 3 and 5 right now. And personally for me, I find that I have the most energy when my body's in a completely fasted state. So
Yeah.
whenever we go to Odin, which is this coffee shop. It's just like down the street from us. And every time I sit there, I'm there at like 7 a.m. in the morning, and I'm like looking to my right, and there's like girls or guys like eating like a croissant first thing in the morning, and their rationalization, and I don't even have to ask them, but their rationalization to themselves is like, oh, I need it for energy or whatever. And I really do. I believe this, and I would say I'm a shining example, plus the thousands of clients who have actually done this are shining examples of this, is the fact that when you have no food in your stomach, that is when you are at your most productive, most energetic, most focused, and you have to take advantage of that. And when you start putting food in your stomach, and when you start kind of screwing with that process, then that's when you start to get brain fog. That's when you start to get tired at like 12 p.m., 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and that's and quite frankly, that's like the cause of like a lot of the problems that we're dealing with in regards to obesity in terms of North America. So yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Last question. What do you want most for the world?
I want everybody to understand that they don't need to eat all the time. I want people to understand that food is actually a tool to be used to enhance our lives rather than it is to be used to avoid the hard things that we're facing. I want people to understand that again, food is not our enemy. Sugars are not our enemy. Quite frankly, we don't have any enemies. The only thing that we have to focus on is our relationship to ourselves and our perceptions towards food and working out. And the more we can understand that we don't need to eat, we don't need to eat all the time, and the more we can understand that if we actually start nourishing our bodies with good foods, and also going outside of that diet and cheating once, not cheating, but eating a free meal once in a while, 3 days with your families, there is a balance that can be achieved, but you just have to go out and make the effort and actually find that for yourself. So yeah, dieting and working out, getting to the optimal body that you want, it doesn't have to be hard. I'm going to say you just have to start now, and that's about it.
I really don't think we could have finished on a brighter, bigger, more powerful note than what you just shared.
Thank you.
I really, really, really appreciate not only our friendship, and we haven't really hung out that much over the last kind of year and a bit, but and all the wisdom that you just shared with everybody. I really appreciate it, Dan. So thanks so much.
And thank you for having me on here. I have seen your transformation from where you started to where you are right now. And I couldn't be more prouder as a friend. And at the same time, I'm very grateful for the opportunity of being on this podcast, being able to share what we know with your audience and the entire world. Thank you very much.